Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the 2022 Senate elections and a preview of, as of right now, what I consider to be the 5 most competitive races. So, before we get into this video, I know I have not posted as much. I think it's been 4 days since my last upload. Like I said earlier this month and, the first half of October are likely to be very busy for me, and, when I get busy, unfortunately, my YouTube channel is the first thing that I'm going to be putting aside when I have other stuff to do. So I do hope I can get back to the normal upload schedule like I was doing before. Every other day was really working for me for a very big chunk of 2020 and 2021. I did every other day from January 2021 all the way until the beginning of September. So that was working out really well for me, and also. I've always wanted to do the every other day thing, but in 2020 the reason that I posted once a day really was because of two things. One, I was significantly less busy because I had less homework and schoolwork because of COVID. Online school gave me way too much time to do whatever I wanted, and then also there was an election going on in America, which had so much to cover because American elections are super chaotic. So I had a lot, I had so much material back then. Now I don't have as much, so I don't have as much of a reason to post every day, and I'm trying to make, quality over quantity, which I hope you guys are okay with that. But I'll get into it right now. So we're going to label the most competitive races for 2022. This is subject to change, in October or September of 2019. Georgia, Kansas, Montana, Iowa. Those races were not expected to be competitive for the Democrats, and they ended up being very competitive races, and the Democrats actually won both races in Georgia. But as of right now, this is what I think the 5 most competitive races for 2022 are. But first, we'll get the safe states out of the way. These are states that I think are either going to be very solid for one party, or they're going to be greater than 5 points. So races that I think are going to be greater than a 5-point victory for either party, I'm just going to label right now. I don't really want to talk about these too much because we've talked about them enough. And, by the time that 2022 rolls around, I'll definitely make, analysis videos like Ohio. Ohio is a state that I think is right now bordering, teetering on the edge of 4 to 6 point victory for the GOP. And I'll be sure to make individual analysis deep dive videos like I did in 2020 for those Senate races I made videos. But, all the competitive Senate races from Michigan to Georgia. So I'll definitely do that for 2022, but in Ohio, right now, I'm not going to talk about it too much. I think that this state could easily be competitive, but Josh Mandel, I just think he's a bad candidate, but he's not going to do enough to lose this race, especially when Joe Biden's not at a very popular point in his presidency right now. Could that change? Sure, but for now, I don't. Actually, for now, I'll keep it as likely, just to avoid complications. But for now, I think Ohio is not really worth my time. So, going over to Florida. Florida's another one that could get competitive, could be a blowout for the GOP. Either way, I don't see a scenario where the Democrats win it, but I'll just have it. I'll just keep it as likely. I think South Carolina, and that's it. So there are 47 seats I think are going to go to the GOP no matter what. 46 for the Democrats. There are a few seats like Nevada and Arizona that I think might not, because look, we have 7 seats that I have not labeled yet. 2 of them are going to be labeled. 2 of them are not going to be the top of competitive, and you can for now you can speculate in the Premier chat or whatever you want to do, but I'm going to say that there are races all 7 of these races are competitive, but they're not. Some of them are more competitive than others. I think that the Democrats have a better chance of picking up Pennsylvania than say North Carolina. So just keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to label the 2 outliers here, and I will say that they are 2 Democratic-held seats. They are Arizona and Nevada. So I've been pretty big on the Democrats winning Nevada. I don't really think that they are in a position to be losing either of these races. That could change, but right now there are no good candidates for the GOP in either of these states. Mark Kelly and Catherine Cortez Masto are both overperforming incumbents who, for whatever reason, do tend to do very well, especially with Hispanic voters, which are they predominate in a lot of regions in both these states. So in Arizona, Mark Kelly did run 2.1% ahead of Joe Biden in 2020. I expect he could do a similar thing. I think he'll win by 3 or 4, which would be him running about a point or so ahead of his 2020 performance, which, even though the national environment might be a little better for the GOP in 2022 than it was in 2020, Mark Kelly, I just think he'll have a better year because the Republicans. Martha McSally was a bad candidate, but I don't think they're going to do much better than her. So they just got really unlucky in Arizona, and they accidentally elected a popular Democrat. In Nevada, I think Nevada's a little more likely to flip than Arizona. Kathleen Cortez Masto is a strong incumbent, but I think Kelly's a little better in terms of electability. But either way, the Republicans are likely to end up running Adam Laxalt. And, Adam Laxalt, I don't really get what the hype around him is. He lost by 4 points to Steve Sisolak, who's not a very, not the strongest candidate. I get that it was a blue wave year in 2018, so you got to give him credit for that. But at the same time, he lost Washoe County, he lost Clark County by a lot, and it just was not a very good performance. Like, if he came within a point of beating Sisolak in a blue wave year, then I'd be entertaining it more and maybe having this race as a toss-up. But for right now, I think lean Democrat, I just don't see a path to victory for Adam Laxalt. And the polls in Nevada, which have usually actually underestimated Republicans, they've usually actually overestimated Republicans, they aren't showing very good sense for Adam Laxalt. There was one internal that had him up, but it was a really bad poll, and it was an internal poll from him that oversampled, I think, rural counties by an exponential amount. So, all the reputable polls you've seen, which are few, to be fair, but it does not look like, as of right now, Kathleen Cortez Masto is on track to lose re-election. Now, for the competitive seats, so number 5 on this list of most competitive seats, I believe, is Georgia. So, Georgia is a state that I'm pretty high on Democrats there. So, I really do expect that the Democrats are going to be doing, quite well in Georgia, and this is, I would say, mostly because the Republicans don't have a great bench here. The Republicans have, like when we talk about benches, who are you gonna run for Senate races? Like think about it like sports. Like I'm a football fan. Think about it like it's almost like you're drafting people, right? So if the GOP wants to win a Senate race in Wisconsin, they need to draft someone good to win that race. Same how my Seattle Seahawks need to draft someone good in the first, second round of the draft to compete, to win a Super Bowl or to win their division. So it's all about drafting, and in Georgia and Arizona specifically, the GOP does not have a very good bench. They don't have a ton of people that they like there. In Arizona, they are probably going to end up running someone like Blake Masters. I'm really torn on who they're going to run between Brnovich and Masters, but neither of them I think that they both have upsides, but neither of them are really candidates that make me think that they're going to flip those seats. And in Georgia, they're probably going to run Herschel Walker, who has a domestic abuse allegation going against him, which is never something that you want to see in a in a Senate race. It has downed many candidates in the past, and I think Herschel Walker in a state that Joe Biden carried that's trending blue at the speed of light really is that's not a good sign for him. Now, to go to our next state that I think is competitive, number 4 on the most competitive Senate races is New Hampshire. So, New Hampshire with Chris Sununu, I think, is lean Republican, and I'm getting more and more confident of Sununu if he does run to win any day. So, originally the announcement was going to come in June, but it looks like he'll announce in November, which is disappointing for me because I really want to make a video about it, because then I can finally either say New Hampshire is either likely Democrat or lean Republican. If Sununu doesn't run, it's likely Democrat. If not, it's lean Republican. And Sununu makes the GOP's chance of winning the Senate go from maybe 30% to 55%. So, Chris Sununu is someone who is very popular. He won his 2020 governor's race by 33% of the vote, and that's not too shabby, especially in a very polarized environment where Joe Biden won the state by 7, and Jean Shaheen, who was on the ballot for that Senate race, won by 16. So Democrats in New Hampshire had a very good year in 2020, but Chris Sununu managed to hold on by the most out of anyone. So I do think that the Democrats are going to be competitive in this race. Maggie Hassan is by no means a weak incumbent, but Chris Sununu is just too popular, and I don't see him losing at this point in time because he kind of takes away that incumbency factor from Hassan, and it really comes down to whether New Hampshire voters overwhelmingly prefer Biden. I think he's narrowly above water in New Hampshire as of right now, not according to polls, but to what I think is happening. But that really could change. So, number 3 on this list is going to be the state of North Carolina. So, North Carolina is a state that, it's similar to Florida. It's been a heartbreaker for Democrats in the past. They always seem to come within a point or so of flipping the state, and they just can't win it. So, in 2020, they ran Cal Cunningham in that Senate race, and Cal Cunningham is someone who was looking to be a strong candidate, but at the end of the day, ended up losing them this race. He kind of bungled it because it turned out that he cheated on his wife, which never something you want to see in a Senate race, never something you want to see actually in real life either. But Cal Cunningham lost this race. He ran behind Joe Biden by about half a percentage point, and Joe Biden lost the state despite a pretty strong effort. Roy Cooper won re-election as governor, and I think Roy Cooper was Joe Biden's main hope of flipping North Carolina, but there were just too many Trump-Cooper voters for Biden to overcome that. And he did well in Charlotte, he did well in Raleigh, he did well in Durham, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem. But unfortunately for him, the Charlotte suburbs are just a little too red. Like if the Charlotte suburbs were as blue as Georgia, like the Atlanta suburbs, the Democrats will be winning North Carolina by probably more than Georgia. But they're just a little bit too red. Like in 10 years from now, if the Charlotte suburbs are 5 points bluer, I think that North Carolina does flip. And that's what it comes down to. But I think for right now, the suburbs of North Carolina are not going to be swinging too much to the left. They might actually swing a little right relative to 2020 because Trump still did pretty poorly there. But I just don't think Sherry Beasley is really going to flip the seat. She's not a bad candidate by any means, but in a Democrat, in a Biden midterm, the Democrats are not going to be in a position to compete for North Carolina, realistically speaking. So to go over to our next state, number 2 on this list is Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, I was originally pretty high on the Democrats there. Sarah Godlewski looked like a good candidate. She was the treasurer. She won 2018 by 4%, which is, she ran ahead of Tony Evers. She ran ahead of Joe Biden. She ran ahead of, I think, House Democrats in 2018 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So she had a pretty good showing in 2018. But as it turns out, she has a tax scandal, and she is getting absolutely obliterated in primary polls by Mandela Barnes. Mandela Barnes is a lieutenant governor, so he hasn't won statewide on his own yet. But he's still someone who is, a statewide official of Wisconsin and is known statewide. Not as much as Tony Evers or, Ron Johnson or Tammy Baldwin, but he is someone that I think is a decent candidate. He has ups and downs. I think that he can excite Democratic turnout in Milwaukee. He's from Milwaukee, but at the same time, he might struggle to win more rural and working class voters, especially those who are white ancestral Democrats. When I voted for Obama, voted for Kerry, voted for Gore, turned away from them in 2016 with Trump. I just don't see Mandela Barnes getting those voters back the way Tammy Baldwin did, because Baldwin did a very good job of getting a lot of Trump voters on her side because she was a populist. She appealed to working class voters, especially in areas, in Ron Johnson's district, in Ron Kyne's district, the 3rd district of Wisconsin. She did very well in La Crosse, Eau Claire, those areas, and I just don't think Mandela Barnes has it in him to do that. Sarah Godlewski probably doesn't either, so I think this race is not, the Democrats I think could have better options either way, but Ron Johnson, even though he's not very popular, I think he's going to end up winning at the end of the day. So our most competitive Senate race, as you might expect, is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a pure toss-up. I do not know who's going to win it. I could not tell you. But I think right now, it's definitely the most competitive race. And this is for a few reasons. So in Pennsylvania, as I mentioned earlier, most competitive race. But I do think that the Republicans have some advantage going for them. So, like I said, it's a Biden midterm, and Joe Biden is not at a very popular point in his presidency by now. That could change, as I've said many times. But if the election would be held today, I think the Democrats would lose it because Joe Biden is not, he has not gotten the working class Trump, Obama voters to come back for the Democratic Party. He didn't do that in 2020. He did worse with working class voters than expected. And in 2022, the Democrats do not look like they're in a position to flip those voters back like they promised to. And in Pennsylvania, that's really bad news for them because Pennsylvania is a working class state. You have a lot of fracking workers. You have a lot of coal miners there that have really turned against the Democratic Party. And, Connor Lamb, I think, is their best shot to win those voters back because he does come from a working class district, or partially working class district at least. And he has won several elections where he's ran ahead of other Democrats. But I think the Democrats are going to end up running John Fetterman. He's been ahead of Lamb in the few primary polls we've seen, even though he's not a better candidate in my opinion. He's someone who I think is favored to win that primary. And, if he goes against someone like Sean Parnell, Sean Parnell is a decent candidate for the Republicans, Fetterman's okay, but I think they could do a lot better than him. I just think Parnell would win because Fetterman, he has a scandal where he allegedly, he admitted to it actually, it's not allegedly, but he put a gun in a jogger's face. He didn't, the jogger who's actually now in jail did actually write a letter endorsing Fetterman, so it's quite an interesting situation there. But I will say that it's not going to help Fetterman in Pennsylvania. So Fetterman, I think he'd do worse than Lamb in the suburbs and slightly worse than him with working class voters. He's also progressive, like he supports the Green New Deal and Medicare for all, so I don't really think that's going to help him in Pennsylvania when, the Republicans for the past 3 years have been saying Democrats want to do the Green New Deal, which that should say all, really, that should say everything when they're telling Pennsylvania voters that Democrats are in favor of the Green New Deal. and they're trying to scare working class voters away from Democrats. So I think that John Fetterman would be very easy for the Republicans to brand as a socialist who wants to really take away the jobs of working class voters. And Lamb, he's better, but I still don't think he'd beat Sean Parnell just because of how unpopular Joe Biden is in Pennsylvania right now. So that's it for these races. I'd say 5 of these races. Here's the thing with these competitive races. I think they're going to go either one way or another. Like we're not going to see a split. I think either the Democrats win 4 or 5 or the Republicans win 4 or 5. So right now, I'd say the Republicans are going to win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and New Hampshire, but I think the Democrats are going to hold on to Georgia. So that means 4 out of these 5 would go Republican. But, I could easily see the Democrats holding on to New Hampshire if Sununu runs a bad campaign. Pennsylvania's a pure toss-up, so I wouldn't be surprised if they won it. North Carolina and Wisconsin are both flippable, but I think Wisconsin, they've got a better chance in since Biden won it in 2020 than holding on to Georgia. North Carolina is also flippable as well. I just think it's a little less competitive than Wisconsin. Anyways, but I think I'll just fill out these states just to make it look a little better. So this is my final competitive map for right now. That would mean that if these states, kind of split, the Democrats would get a narrow majority because they do have the most seats, or they're leading 48 to 47. But let me know what you think in the comments. Did I miss any states? Do you disagree with my calls in any states? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.